Hey, it's Mike. Thanks for tuning back in. It is Friday, which means it is Attic Find Friday, and today's story is, it's really interesting, I think. And I started out thinking, well, the story itself isn't that interesting, but the stories about the story are more interesting, and I wanted to talk about those, and we still will. But then I discovered the backstory, which is not that easy to find on the internet in this case, but I found it, and I'm excited about it. So first of all, I want to talk about Sunday night. I'm doing a Whatnot sale. I've settled on $1 slab starts for Michael Jordan cards. Not this one. I'm hanging on to this one. But yeah, I've got dozens of Michael Jordan cards slabbed that I'm going to sell because they no longer fit in my collection. Yeah, looking forward to that. 7:30 p.m. Eastern Time. It's on Whatnot. If you sign up through my link, which is in the description, you get a $15 credit if you're new to Whatnot. Next off, Attic Find Friday is sponsored by Iron Guard Supplies, and I received my Iron Guard supplies in the mail. I just got it, so it's awesome. I mean, here's some team bags, some graded card sleeves. Here's top loader pages, 9 pocket binder pages, top loaders. There's all kinds of stuff in here. It's awesome. I'm excited to really dig in a little bit further. So you get, if you purchase through my link, which is also in the description, you get a 20% off discount by using the code JUNKWAX20. So please do that if you're going to be buying from them. Let's talk about urban explorers for a minute, because this is another story about urban explorers, and I feel like they're being kind of glamorized, these urban explorers. They are trespassing, and in this case, they are looting. And they're, instead of being called trespassers and looters, they're called urban explorers, and they're enterprising young people. I'm curious what you think about this. When somebody finds an abandoned factory or warehouse, is it cool that they go in and steal everything? I don't know. I'm curious what you think. So I did another story on urban explorers where they went in, they did trespass, but allegedly didn't steal anything. And it was a really cool story. This one is about a person who goes by the name of Slanks. When you go by the name of Slanks, it's the perfect name for an urban explorer, isn't it? Slanks. I can't think of a better name for an urban explorer. Somebody who's just going into abandoned properties and stealing things. So the way I found this is I did a search for warehouse sports card finds and things like that, and I found a Daily Mail story that says $1 million find in an abandoned warehouse in Detroit. And I was like, oh, $1 million find, this sounds awesome. But I went into the story, and all of the photos are late 80s into the 90s, early 90s baseball cards and Ontario Hockey League cards. And I don't know anything about hockey. I'm sure my longtime subscriber Nikola Tesla would love to have these cards, but they're not worth anything. And so, I read through the story. I was waiting for something big. It's just millions and millions of junk wax era cards. And I know John Mangini thinks we should call it boom era or mass production era, whatever you want to call it. These cards are not worth even close to $1 million, a very, very tiny fraction of $1 million. And the Daily Mail just kind of went with Slanks's description, I guess, and then Sports Illustrated picked up and called it $1 million find, and then Rolling Stone did, and I couldn't read the Rolling Stone article because I'm not a subscriber. They have a paywall, but they all just kind of aggregated the story that it was $1 million worth of cards. And Slanks, a lot of photographs in the Daily Mail story. Slanks claims that he goes into the factory frequently, takes cards, and then sells them on eBay, and it's his primary source of income. And that may be true if his primary source of income is very small, or if we're missing something in these photos. If there are more cards there that we just can't see, it is a lot of it's sealed wax from that time, and you can sell those for okay money, you know, $15 for a box of 1989 tops, $10 for a box of 1989 tops. I don't know. But then there are also like a lot of 800 count boxes of cards that seem to be full, but there are cards all over the warehouse floor, and they're all that I can see anyway. And I read some forum posts about it on Blowout. It's all junk wax era cards. So maybe Slanks is okay with making very little money, and that's what a primary source of income is, which is perfectly fine and understandable. I just, you know, they position this as $1 million fine, and he's making tons of money. But then, as I was just getting set up to make the video, I did one more search for this very story, and I found an article on Daily Detroit where the writer had read the story, and obviously it's local to Detroit, had read the story on the Daily Mail and couldn't get it out of his head, the writer. I say his, I assume it's a man, but I'm not really sure. And so they set out to find any details they could and started calling people. Some nice journalism here. And they discovered, they went to George Kruk, who's a local card and sports memorabilia mogul, whatever that means. And he said, yeah, those belonged to Hubert Hemmen, who went by the name Hub. I'm assuming it's Hub. It's H-U-B, but it's short for Hubert. So would that be Hube? I doubt it, but it could be. I don't know. Hub died in 2013. He owned Hub's Tool and Machine in Warren, Michigan, but it failed in the 1980s. And as the business was failing, he started getting into sports cards. You know, it's the mid to late 80s, and everybody's kind of starting to get into sports cards, and that's kind of what started the problem. And he used that business space for his cards. Now, in 2013, his family inherited his business and the building and sold it, all of it. The new owners cleaned it out. It took them weeks to pull out all the cards. And this is being told by the guy who owns the business right next door to Hub's. It took them weeks to pull out all the cards. George Kruk speculated that the cards were dumped in this warehouse to collect an insurance policy. I assume scamming an insurance policy because they were worth nothing and they had spent so much money on them. Maybe he's speculating that they're dumping them and saying that they were stolen or lost in a fire. I don't know. But that was his speculation. But John Hemmen, Hub's nephew, says that's not the case, just that Hub had dementia at the end of his life and couldn't keep track of all of his assets. And they were just left in this warehouse owned by Ivan Doverspike, who allowed Hub to store his cards in that facility, which was a former Cadillac stamping plant. Kruk also says, and I don't think there's any relation to John Kruk, but maybe there is. George Kruk says that Hub tried to sell him the Ontario Hockey League cards several times, but there was no value there and he just wasn't interested. So what do you think about this story? Could there be $1 million in there? Oh, and another thing is that John Hemmen says that Hub did have good cards, but he stored them elsewhere. I couldn't find anything out about what those cards were or where they might be now, but John Hemmen said that there were mantles and others, vintage cards that he did not keep at the business or in the warehouse. So presumably that confirms that everything in the warehouse was just 80s and 90s, mostly junk. Let me know what you think. If you're new here, click that subscribe button. I do a weekly Attic Find Friday story about sports cards and other collectibles that are fine, and they're big finds in warehouses and attics and basements and storage spaces and all kinds of places. So let me know in the comments what you think. I appreciate it. I hope you guys have a great weekend, and you're planning on a nice 4th. Here in Maine, it's been really rainy for months, and I'm hoping that Tuesday, the 4th, will be nice so we can finally get our lawn games out with the family and do some more grilling. Obviously, I'm still grilling, but it'd be nice if it were actually nice weather. All right, see you guys this weekend. I'll be at the Portland, Maine card show on Sunday. Hope to see you there.